Great. Let us know, how are you, man? How are you? How are you doing? How are you training? How do you manage to train with all this COVID-19 situation going on?
Um, I mean, obviously, it's a little crazy in the world. Um, my house is a gym. I got mats, bags. I got a sauna. I got a weight room in the garage. That's just my life. I've always worked out, so still get my workouts in, and of course eating smart, and it's good to be with the family though. Can't deny that. Kids are around you all day. It's a little bit crazy, but hey.
It's great. And great. Tell us, are you still a free agent? Did you have
I'm
any offers?
I'm a free agent, so yeah, haven't really talked to anybody yet, just because not like for a while there, my wife was going to master's school, and she was getting her master's degree, and we had a new baby, and it was just a little crazy, and then quarantine hit, and then that was in like Marchish, so I was kind of thinking about getting back into it, but it hit, and just got to wait till this clears up, and then start checking what I can do.
There's a company that you want to fight. Like, do you have one in mind? Like, I want to fight in Bellator or one championship.
Yeah.
Do you have one in mind that you
Yeah,
wish
Bellator.
for fighting?
Yeah, Bellator is always nice. It's here in the States. I've heard a lot of good stuff about Scott Coker. I've heard a lot of good stuff about Shatri as well. I almost took a job out there in Singapore. I went out there to become the head coach over at his gym, and just didn't work out the way I wanted, and turned that job down, and stayed in the United States. So I'm kind of leaning a little bit towards Bellator. We haven't really talked about it yet, but if I do choose to come back, then that's where I'd go.
Are you more comfortable fighting or coaching?
Comfortable. Am I better at fighting or coaching?
No. How if you like more to coach or fight, like which
Yeah.
would be a better job for you, in your opinion, of course?
Yeah. So if you asked me this like 5 years ago, it would be um, to actually compete. To fight, to train, to get in the ring. But now it's probably half and half. I really do love coaching, and but then maybe in a couple years now it's all coaching. But as of now, I'm kind of torn because I still am in good shape. I still train all the time. I help out anybody I can, because this is a rough business. I want to spread my knowledge as much as I can to all the guys coming up, because I want everybody to make the most money they can.
Great. How many fights do you think you're going to do in the future before retiring?
I mean, I guess you can't really put a number on it, just because it's how you feel. I've always gone by how I felt on, doing a training camp, how excited I am to get back into training, how easy it is to kind of not drink, beer or eat bad food. It's more so like, how into it, are you? And there's been a couple camps where I haven't been into it, and I don't know if that's because of who I was with, because I was under the UFC umbrella and just not really into it, or that was just me. But right now, I want to get back into it. I want to get back into training camp. I want to get back in the ring and compete.
You got released from the UFC last December, I think. Am I correct?
Yeah, it was like last December-ish.
Yeah.
They
Hmm. Yes, tell me.
they wanted me
Sorry.
to retire, but I wanted a release.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So your relation with the company, it didn't end very well.
I don't know if it ended very well. It's not that it ended very well. It's just, I mean, it was good terms. It was just like, hey, great, we want you to retire. And he's been asking to get me to retire for a long time, and I just don't want to do it. You know, I don't want to retire under his contract. And I was just, you know, just like, can you give me a release? And he gave me my release. But lately, you know, as you guys know, I've been kind of a little bit active on Twitter.
Yes.
Yes.
Just because, you know, I think this needs to get out there. I don't really care about my relationship with the UFC. That's not really if you know, if that's what it costs to keep a good relationship and to be, you know, their guy. I mean, I don't know what good that is, but you know, like I'm still going to speak out because I'm a fighter. I'm trying to help the guys and girls that are coming up. You know, the UFC has their money. The guys and the girls need that money. You know, need more money, and that's who I'm trying to help. And if they want to be pissed at me for that, then that's on them.
And why do you think that it's so hard to MMA fighters to unionize? Because the NBA has their union, the NFL has their union, and why not the MMA? Despite the fact that MMA, the big company, is right now UFC, and the top dog is UFC, but why the fighters cannot go into a union and say, hey, we are like 100 fighters and we want a better pay, and why that
Yeah.
doesn't happen?
It's a little different just because because it isn't a team sport. You know, and you have a lot of the fans who just want to see fights, and that's why they promote UFC more than they promote the names. Is because they want the UFC brand to be what people go to. Is, oh, I want to watch a fight. You know, I'm watching UFC. It's not like, oh, I'm going to watch John Jones fight. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's a little bit more difficult. What is more important though is that we start getting the Ali Act. The Ali Act is covered under covers boxing, but it covers combat sports, but it doesn't cover MMA. Combat sports doesn't cover MMA because
Mm-hmm.
MMA was just in its infancy when that did start.
Mm-hmm.
So we definitely need to create that Ali Act or get that Ali Act blanket to cover MMA. Because if not, you know, it's going to be a lot more of what we're dealing with now: long contracts, low pay, and one company kind of
Mm-hmm.
dictating the whole sport.
And
Right.
do you think that big names like John Jones or Ngannou or Jorge Masvidal talking about this issue will make a difference, or it will be something like when GSP, Cain, and TJ tried to do this union that then fell apart?
Yeah.
What do you think it will be happen?
I think now it's starting to get easier to get information out, right? To we have Twitter, we have Instagram, we have all these informational avenues, and of course it helps to have John Jones and to have Jorge, um, you know, speaking out. I hope that they stick to it, right? This could
Mhm.
be one thing where UFC comes to them like, hey, just, you know, how much you want, and they give them however much John Jones wants and however much Jorge wants, and those two guys are happy. But those are only two guys out of all of us, right? We need to, if they stick to it and they chose to help all the fighters, that would be huge. That would make them definitely go down in history. I think people like, if George and John do this, Nate Diaz, he speaks up, as well against the UFC. Those are the guys who have really big names and who are going to go down with a legacy of being good fighters, being popular, but also helping a cause, right? Muhammad Ali, he was a great boxer, but he also helped races. He also helped countries. He was a spokesman. He helped people. He did more than boxing, right? I feel like Conor is not a Muhammad Ali because he doesn't help anybody but Conor, right? He's a great fighter, and that's where it's at. He makes the most money he can, and then he doesn't try to help out people, right? He doesn't try to help the people that made him that money, that created the sport. He tries to help himself.
Great. And why do you think that all these guys are coming and are saying this nowadays? Do you think that maybe the Fight Island thing had something to do? Because the people were saying, well, UFC has the money to buy an island, but they don't have money for the fighters. Do you think that that's maybe a reason?
I don't think it was the island at all. First of all, they didn't buy that island, and they probably got a really good deal on it too, to where the country paid for all the infrastructure and like whatnot. I mean, they're not dumb, like, business wise, but what I think happened was the biggest change was in when the company got bought out, for 4.2 billion, 4.5 billion. And, people started understanding, because for a long time, the people who were in that organization, we were getting beat up on contracts. We were getting beat up, lowballed on every contract. And, we thought, okay, maybe this is just growing. We're helping this grow or whatever. Maybe we didn't really know what was going on because there weren't a lot of numbers out about it. But as it started getting bigger, I'm pretty sure the lawsuit happened. There's a class action lawsuit against the UFC happened in 2014-ish, maybe a little bit earlier. But people start catching on to how much money is involved and how much money a couple people are making. And that's when people are starting to realize, hey, we as athletes need a bigger piece of the pie, right? But it's hard because you got guys willing to go in that octagon basically for free. I know people that have to pay money to fight in the octagon. Like, literally, they make $8,000 because they lost, and they've paid coaches, they paid camps, they've paid for all this stuff. They've had to pay money to go, but they're still happy to be in with the UFC because it gives them a little bit of notoriety. It gives them, a little bit of purpose, and not that they're bad. They're just trying to reach their goal. I understand that, but we do have to come together as, a group and start realizing what we can earn.
Great. And now that we're talking about this, how much does a fighter have to pay? I don't know, for a training camp or for the coaches with the taxes. because we see, as you say, guys that are earning, I don't know, 15K, something like that, and
Yeah.
I'm thinking they don't get nothing.
Yeah. Nothing. You know, I know people that make 10 and 10, 10 and
Mm.
10, 10,000 to show up. If they
Sure.
lose, they make 10,000. Okay, you get like a little uh, $2,000 or $3,000 like Reebok sponsorship, you know, and then that's nothing. But just to put it on an easy term in like maybe even bigger numbers, um, uh, you know, like if you have $100,000 payday, if you get 100 grand, um, you know, you're talking in America 15% to 20% in taxes. Now you're down to 80%, 85%, or $85,000. Now you're talking about like an agent fee, 10%. Now you're down to 70, 75, 80. Now you're talking about coaches. You should be paying your coaches. I mean, there's people that have to pay like 10 to 20%, in coaching, because you have your jiu-jitsu coach. You got 3 different coaches, your head coach, your boxing coach. That's like, people can't work for 2%, you know. So we're talking about 15 to 20 grand right there just in coaching, if you're making $100,000 payday. So we're down to like 55 grand. Now you're talking about training camp expenses, equipment, supplements, just healthy eating. If you have a dietitian, I mean, it can get down to below 40 grand easy, where you're walking away with it. Now you're talking about your bills, your expenses. If you have
Yes.
kids, just paying all that. Like that's your walk away. Whereas if a person has a job, they have their paycheck, they just pay for gas to go to work, right? Gas.
Mhm.
Maybe go eat out for
Yeah.
lunchtime, but us, we're paying management, coaches, equipment, nutrition,
Nutrition.
supplements, and then taxes on top of that.
And Gray, you just talked about the antitrust lawsuit against UFC, and one of the things that struck me, like the most was the show Silva talking about how he negotiate the contracts with the fighters. Can you talk to us about that a little bit? How the UFC catches you, like how they do to put you under a contract with low money purses, and how is their tactic? It's like
Yeah.
they are like predators. How they do that?
Yeah. So what happens is usually you get into the UFC and it's a big deal, and you're just a hungry person to get in there, and they usually do a contract to where they can cut it, right? They can cut it at any time, and you can't. You have to fight out until they do cut it, or you fight out your contract. So you might be on a 4-fight contract. That's kind of standard, right? Of 4-fight contract. What they say, or and you win 3 fights. Okay,
Mhm.
you're doing good. You win 3 fights. Okay, hey, we're gonna up your contract. We're gonna double your contract. Maybe you were at 10 and 10, then you got increased to 13 and 13, 16 and 16. Now let's renegotiate, because we don't want you to get to that point to where you're a free agent if you
Yeah.
win this next one, right? And that's when they say, let's renegotiate after 3 fights. Okay, let's renegotiate. And they throw a decent number at you, like you just doubled your income, 25 and 25. Okay, yeah, that's great. Now, if you tell them no, I don't want to renegotiate, what happens is you get a very tough matchup. You usually get a really bad matchup that nobody wants, right? Which, I mean, it's a fight game. You should be prepared to go up against anybody, but still, that's their tactic, right? Is renegotiate and play good with them and let them get you back in the contract, or you get a really tough, you know, uh, a tough bout, and even if they're pissed at you, they'll put you on an undercard to where you don't have um, a lot of negotiating after that one, because you're a free agent, right? You're trying to talk to other organizations, and you can't, they try to make it as bad for you as you possibly can. Now, once you're in the UFC and you're going through it and you're getting contracts, you're going through contracts and you're starting to build a name, that's when they start to understand, hey, we got to lock him into a good contract, a long contract in their turn, in which is 6 fights, 8 fights, right? So, they pretty much offer like what is good in MMA terms, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's this contract, but it's going to be for 8 fights. You're going to be taken care of, and you're never they know you're never going to get through that 8 fights, right? Especially when you're getting towards the end of the career. And if you do get towards that, around 6 or 7 fights, they try to roll you into another contract, you know.
Yeah.
And if you don't play ball, then those last 2 fights, when they try to renegotiate with you, you just get shitty contracts. You just not shitty contracts. You get they control the matchups, right? And if you
Mm-hmm.
turn down that matchup, they tell you they extend your contract. Oh, well, we offered you the fight and you didn't take it. We're going to extend your contract even longer, and that's how they hold you into it, right?
It's like an extortion.
I mean, it's kind of like, I guess you could put it that way. It's just, I mean, extortion is kind of a tough word,
Yeah.
but like very hard negotiations, and also very weighted
Yeah.
negotiations, right? They have a ton of leverage. They can make your career very shitty, or or um, or you sign the contract and you just keep your mouth shut and you keep plugging away at that contract, and they keep making money on that, right?
Uh, and how it was, talking about that, the Frankie Edgar matches negotiation.
Right.
Like, because I read that you made 26, right? 26 for
26 and
those
26, yeah.
26 and 26, and you earned the 60,000 bonus. But how it was the negotiation? When they came up with that number, like, hey, we are offering you this number for main eventing pay-per-view against the champ. Like,
Yeah.
how it was? Like, what? Like, did
So
you
I
have
didn't get a
chance
chance
to
to
say
negotiate.
like
Right.
that? Tell me.
And so the UFC controls who gets title shots, right? And that's the problem. They control who gets title shots. I can't ask that. They already passed me up once for Edgar, because I already beat Edgar. He got the title shot before me because he had a good fight against a guy that wasn't that good. His name's Matt Veach. He TKO'd him, but I fought Nate Diaz,
Yeah.
who's, I mean, that's never a good matchup, right? You never look good going up against Nate Diaz. I beat Nate. He beat Matt Veach, right? They gave him the title shot before me. So I understood like I had to win this belt, right, in order to have a little bit of negotiations. We didn't negotiate a contract when I went into it. It was my same contract that I was going into the title fight. But afterwards, I only had one fight left on my contract. After that fight, that was a fight of the year. They replay that all the time, whatever it is. Joe Silva was the matchmaker at the time. So what happened was he called my agent after that draw, the title fight draw. He called him. He said, "Hey, we got to renegotiate Gray's contract." He said, "Okay." At the time, my agent was representing like Ryan Bader, and Ryan Bader was getting 65 and 65. So what happened was we asked for 65 and 60, 65 and 65, and then Joe Silva, he wanted Anthony Pettis to get the title shot at the time, and he was like, "No, we're not going to do that. He shouldn't even be getting the title shot anyways. You know, I'll offer you 42 and 42. Take it or leave it." Now, us knowing that I had a title shot on the line and they controlled that title shot, how do you say no to that? How do you say, no, I can't do that?
It's
right?
impossible.
It's impossible, you know? And that's how they played hardball. But Dana White was patting me on the back like, "Oh, that was an awesome fight. We love the fight. But, here, negotiate with Joe Silva. Negotiate with Joe Silva. I don't think you should get this fight," and blah, blah, blah. And it's good cop, bad cop. And they just play games, man.
Sure.
They play games. And they have the leverage to play games, right? So even if you have a manager that also, that was a different time, right? That was a different time when they were buying up all the promotions, right? They bought up Strikeforce. They didn't buy Strikeforce at the time, but they were buying up all the promotions, and promotions were kind of crumbling as well. So it was a little scary in that time period to be a fighter.
Yeah. I understand. Great. And you also have been in one of the greatest pay-per-view sellers, if not the greatest, in the card of the Khabib and Conor. And
Right.
what about that? How was the negotiation? How much money did you make? Because I don't think that they share much of the earnings from the pay-per-views.
Oh, I didn't make anything off that. I mean, I made 50 grand just off my contract, I was on the prelim. I was just trying to get through my contract by then. That was one of that was like number 5 on my contract. The fifth one on my contract. I had an 8-fight contract because he signed me to an 8-fight deal in 2014 and then asked me to retire 1 fight into it because he knew that I know I have to fight all the way out of that. And I thought I was good, but it just took a lot of time just because my wife was in master school and kids and whatever. So I was stuck in that contract for, going on 4 years.
Gracias por visitar Somos MMA en YouTube. No olvides suscribirte a nuestro canal y activar las notificaciones para seguir disfrutando de nuestro contenido.